Hello, Turkistar Rose. Welcome. Thank you for joining me if you're new. Welcome back if you have been here before. So I'm going to do today's video, I think, in the car. The more up close and personal videos, I don't know. I don't know where I was going with that. I have many topics that I came preloaded with today. I want to address something in a previous video. I talked about being an actor and lying to yourself. I kind of said that was like something I said at like the end of the video. And I absolutely do stand behind that. But I want to clarify something. I want to clarify something very important about how I think I might be able to do that at this at the stage of like energy work, whatever you want to call it, of where I'm at. The reason I'm able to do that, and I want to suggest that that's easy for other people, because I don't want to suggest that people deny their feelings and stuff down your feelings and not be honest about whatever you are feeling in the moment. Because I also really believe that it is very important to express your feelings. Express them fully. When we get stuck in these emotional cycles where we've expressed how we feel about something, but now we can't stop focusing on it and basically re-expressing how we're feeling about it over and over and over again. That's a distinction I want to make. Another thing I want to say about this is that I think the reason I'm able to be an actor, aside from the fact that I've taken acting lessons and I've been through a media production program at school, honestly, the actual real reason that I think I can do that is because, and I've mentioned this before, and I mentioned it actually several times, and I actually want to dig deeper on it. I don't feel like I want to dig deep in today's video about this specifically, but for years I have been doing EFT, emotional freedom technique. So this is really important for me to talk about, at least talk about it, and connect it with some of the other things that I've said in my videos, because it's a very important element of why I feel like I could, I don't want to say bypass what's going on in my reality, because there's definitely times when I struggle with that, but tell myself a different story about what's happening when I see something happening. Because it's easy to get sucked into something and then start feeding the energy and get taken down by it. So when those things start to happen, I'll just flip the script on whatever it is that's happening, and it causes magic in my day. I mean, it's happened so many times now. The reason I think I'm able to easily do that is because of the EFT, is because of emotional freedom technique. So, and the thing about emotional freedom technique, just to give a very brief description of what it is, there are many things you can find online about it. But what it does is you're basically intentionally saying things. It's not about what you say, but it's the reason you're saying the things. You're saying things that are purposely, intentionally conjuring up an emotional charge about a specific subject matter that is triggering you in some way, whether it's giving you anxiety, it's making you sad, it's making you frustrated or angry, whatever it is. The emotional freedom technique, what you do is you intentionally bring up those emotions on purpose, and then you tap on acupressure points. That was literally just a car. That wasn't even a train. I have no idea what on earth. But anyway, you tap on acupressure points while saying things that are conjuring up intentionally this very triggered, emotional or highly emotionally charged, feeling that you have around whatever subject matter. And the reason you do this, that after you're done doing that, you calm it down then. You give yourself an alternate explanation for whatever, or I don't know if I'm wording that right. Sort of. It's a way, I wanted to give like a short explanation of it. I'm probably not explaining it properly, but the reason I brought it up is because the whole purpose of this is that it interrupts the thought patterns. Like we don't really realize how we just loop thoughts over and over all day long, and about a specific topic that's triggering to us for whatever reason, we just keep looping that. And EFT interrupts that process. It interrupts the pattern that is running, that is causing you to keep thinking the same thoughts over and over and over again. So what it does is it calms that down. It drastically reduces the fight or flight response in the body, and it also interrupts the thought patterns. It's very fascinating. But without getting, digging in too deep about the science of it, it's really important for me to have brought that up in today's video, because I don't ever want to come across like I'm suggesting that people ignore their feelings, not express their feelings, and then just tell yourself a different story. When I made the video where I talk about that, because I briefly just sort of mentioned it, but I wanted to dig a little bit deeper in mentioning why that's easy for me to do at this stage of my life. And it's because I've been practicing this EFT. And EFT allows you, what it's doing is you are acknowledging your own feelings about something. So even if the whole world doesn't acknowledge your feelings about something, if somebody that you have resentment toward for a specific reason never said sorry about something, whatever it is, if you never got acknowledgement for something, it's you acknowledging your feelings yourself. So not only is it reducing the fight or flight, interrupting the thought patterns that keep this on a loop, this story, but it also is very much acknowledging your feelings about it and the rightness that you have about your feelings about it, so that you can move this whole thing up and out of your system. It's been very successful for me. I've had great success with it. And I just basically wanted to mention it and just talk a little bit about what it is and what it does in this video, because I don't ever want to come off as like being insensitive to people that are really struggling with something or things, and suggesting that it's easy to just flip the script on something and like think different thoughts, or, tell yourself the opposite story. I am now at a place where I can do that, and I truly feel like using EFT is the reason why I'm able to do that. I continue to work on things within myself. And that's why I made my channel, and that's why I share these things, because I feel like maybe my story or stories, my life journey could help somebody or other people in some sort of way, big or small. And I just don't ever want to come off like I'm, being dismissive of some really big topics. That's why I avoid like really serious things, because I really get it. I really get the difference in the frequency or the energetic state that somebody that's really, really suffering is in, somebody that is in a higher state, that isn't going through that specific thing. So I just kind of keep it, when I give examples or I talk about things for now anyway, I kind of keep it like just, I'm suggesting apply this to the smaller day-to-day things. The day-to-day things could be big, because really, whatever you're doing day-to-day, if you're not happy, that's a big deal. But again, if you're stable in your life, for the most part, they might, they might seem like not as big deal of things as certainly other things can be. That sounds so like I'm not just so generalizing, but I hope you understand what I'm trying to say here. I try to give smaller examples of things that aren't groundbreakingly monumental, because I don't ever want to come off as like I'm being dismissive, and I didn't invent EFT. I just wanted to mention that quick. Another thing I wanted to mention, just can kind of relate to, now speaking of like not wanting to come off as being dismissive, I have 2 kids. I just really wanted to mention also that when you increase your frequency to a high level, what can happen is you can come off dismissive to people that you really care about when you don't mean to do so. So there have been times when I've been super high, like floating on a high vibe cloud, and I wish I could be there right now. I'm not on as high of a cloud as I was for a while, but I am getting there. I am consistently doing the work again, because in terms of like the EFT, I've worked different jobs and I got really busy in my life, and I went to school while working and not really sleeping enough, and it's easy to fall off of the self-healing kind of path. And that's what happened over time. I was talking about like working, going to school, not sleeping enough, definitely eating, I ate a lot of junk food when I was in school, and I loved school. I really enjoyed being in school, like college school, not like grade school. But just to emphasize that, because I went for things that I really was passionate about. Like I said in a previous video, I did switch to business, and that was very valuable information. It was a valuable. I did that because of the scheduling, and I'm like, well, business would be a cool thing, would be a practical thing to like, go to school for. I did very well in that, but at the end of the day, like this media production stuff, it's like such a generic like title, but when I say media production, just like creating videos, creating content, creating art in, in the sense of, recording, editing, those types of things are like my passions. So, that was like a little tangent, because it was like standing up for why I'm not condemning the school aspect of it. I just sort of turned into a level 1, like teenage to 20-year-old, like school, like student that like had this like terrible sleep schedule and crappy diet. That's like the stereotypical thing that can happen to somebody who's going to college for the very first time. And like I said before, I went to school younger and I went to school older. So this is like an older version of me behaving as though like I'm 19 and like with the diet and the coffee at 8 p.m. and all this crap. So anyway, it's just that there was a lot of things in my schedule. There was a lot of things that were fit into my schedule. And, the energy work, the healing work, that could kind of fall to the side. Very unfortunately, because honestly, if there's one thing that I know, none of that stuff matters. No matter how creative I can be, if I'm too exhausted and I don't feel good to even like acknowledge that I did any of that, it doesn't matter. So like your health is so important. Your emotional health and your physical health are so important. And like the energy work that I've done and continue to do is so crucial, because it really drives everything else that's going on in my life. If I let that fall to the side, like, and not make it important, and I don't want to, there's different ideas about the word important. I'm talking about things that you prioritize in your day, because like we do follow this thing called time, whether it's real or not. It's not, but we follow this thing called time. It's a system. And since we do so, there's a limited amount of it. And since there's a limited amount of it, we have the option of what we want to allow in our day. Again, another topic that ties into all this is like the self-sabotage thing. So it's like instant gratification of like, eating junk food and things like that. Getting myself through a night so I could do homework by, making a pot of coffee at 8 o'clock at night. So like, it's the energy work is so important, and I feel such a difference in myself when I don't do it, as also, the dietary things. And these are like the crutches that we use to get through. They have detrimental effects over time. Again, no food shaming whatsoever. I allow myself to have stuff like that, but in a good balance. certainly I feel so different, and I've talked about this in several videos, the food thing, about how I feel before and after eating certain foods, how I feel before and after even eating at all. Sometimes my body just doesn't even want anything. And I come from a place of like previously having like an eating disorders, but one in particular where I did not eat for long periods of time. So I do not promote not eating. Like, I really do not promote not eating. And I think some part of that has caused me to wire in eating now that I do, when I'm not even hungry. So, but sometimes you're just not, and then that's when you shouldn't. It's a very important distinction that I like to make. But with all that said, that's like a side note of what I'm talking about, in addition to, just like the self-care and the emotional stuff, is in addition to the physical taking care of yourself. But the energy work is crucial. The energy work, I know that when I have neglected that, I saw a change in myself. I saw a change in the way that I looked at things and situations. And also it affects everything else. Again, like this, especially with the EFT, the tapping, there's like so many things online you can find, but there's like ones that I specifically follow, specifically on like self-sabotaging behaviors. For me, like that's like eating too much and eating like the wrong things, like too many times. Like, again, I like to let myself have what I want. I'm not trying to deny myself, because I'm human and I live in a world where there's a lot of choices, and sometimes I do like to eat things that aren't healthy, but I like to keep that in a very balanced, keep it really balanced, because when it gets too out of whack, that is when I start to not feel good emotionally or physically. That was like a weird tangent. Like, I don't know how that's going to come together or come across in this video, because like it's kind of all over the place. I decided to not do the video outside. There's a lot of activity going on out here. I don't know if I ever finished my thought about the fact that I think that that's just the universe's way of acknowledging that I was already going to do today's video in the car. And because I just I'm not in the mood. Like, it's not that I don't, well, I mean, with all the activity that's going on out here, I think it would make me kind of uncomfortable to do. There's a lot of activity. There's like people on bikes, like all over the place. But I'm just not feeling like getting out of the car today. So, and I almost didn't make the video at all today. It's like showing up for yourself and choosing yourself first. Just really, truly taking care of yourself and understanding that no relationship to situations, how you relate to the world in general, is gonna like matter unless you truly take care of yourself and truly show up for yourself. Because all that is anyway is just a reflection of how much you're doing that or not doing that. So I just wanted to throw that in. It was kind of a random thing. Your relationship with other people is just a reflection of the relationship you have with yourself. And if you let that fall to the side and not nurture that enough, then you're going to be seeking outside validation, and you're not going to get it. And the reason you're not going to get it is because you're not validating yourself and you're putting yourself last. And that's just never what you should be doing. So I did want to go, so now that I covered that, I wanted to talk about how when you're in a high frequency and you really do a lot of work and you might be in this high vibey super state. I have found, like, I mentioned I have kids, like when they have their struggles and I'm in this like super high vibey, like bubbly state, I can definitely come off as being very dismissive. And I know that I have, and like the stuff that like I do and the way that I do like healing work and stuff doesn't necessarily always resonate with how they do things. Like, I feel like I've pushed a lot of things on them because I care so much and I'm trying to get them to, get to the high vibey state that I can get to sometimes. But I want to really understand that it's important for me to honor their individual choice, each of their individual choices to be on their own path and do what resonates with them. When something works for you, you want to help your kids, but it's not always going to resonate with them. So another thing you got to learn as a parent is to really respect the individuals that your kids are, respect them as individuals. But there have been times, many, many times, when I feel like I'm in a really high vibey state and I can come off as being very dismissive. And I think that that's where I find value in the times when I've maybe struggled. This happened recently. I feel like my higher self wants me to see that as valuable information so that I can apply that to when like my kids are struggling with things. It's like, oh yeah, this is how you feel when you're in a state of struggle. You're definitely not in the same state mentally and emotionally as you are like if you were in a super high vibe state where you're like consistently doing energy work and you're staying on top of like the schedule of that. You're staying on top of the routine. You're staying on a routine with that consistently. Sometimes when you get depressed or you get overwhelmed or you get like you have a high anxiety, you feel pressured, those things are going to pull your energy down and they're going to put you in a lower state. And it can be very difficult to just remember that you've been in higher states and that you have access to those higher states. But something I really want to mention that's really important, if you have found that you've been in a high vibe state or that you've dropped into a low state, that information isn't just gone. It's very much still available to you. You still very much have access to it. It might not seem that way when you're struggling. It is very much that way. Just continue to do the work. Do the things that resonate with you and definitely make it a priority. Make it, again, I said this in terms of like our goals and goal setting in earlier videos, but we show up for a lot of other people in situations. It's very important to remember to show up for yourself consistently. And another thing I wanted to touch upon is like the short term, like again, like with the junk food eating, the coffee, and like for other people it could be like cigarettes, drinking, smoking, a number of things. It's that instant gratification thing that could lead to like self-sabotage, that could sabotage your consistency on staying on top of routines that help you achieve your higher goals, that will lead to greater fulfillment in life so that you don't have to reach for these like short-term crutches to feel happy. It's just, that's the work. That's the hard work that's worth doing. That's the aligned action work. That's not the misaligned action work where you're just working tirelessly out of alignment with you. You're working tirelessly for things that are very in alignment with you. And sometimes you're going to not feel like showing up. And I think, unfortunately, sometimes it's too easy to, probably most times, it's probably easier to just not show up for yourself. But like we show up for other people still. We'll still show up for other people in other situations, but it's easier to just, let our own goals fall, and like make excuses to not stay consistent with our routines that are like following our own goals. So, and this isn't to like shame anybody or yell at anybody. Like, I've done these things. I've done these things. Like the self-sabotage thing. It's like, why is it so easy to sabotage myself? And it's like, say I eat too much. Like the eating thing, it's triggering, but I want to bring it up because sometimes I'll eat like junk food and then I feel like crap, or I'll eat too much and I'll feel tired. And I'm like, maybe I'm in the middle of like editing a video that I'm like want to publish. Like I could be so more far along with my channel. There has been a lot of self-sabotage, and one part of that is just habits, bad residual habits. And another thing is that, like that relates to a video that I had about like when your reality freaks out when you're making big changes. It's like part of me is like, oh my God, like this is really happening. And it's like freaking out that I'm actually taking steps to doing it. It's like no other time before. Like I'm just used to doing things that like people tell me to do or whatever. And now I'm like actually showing up for myself consistently in a really huge way. And there's something very, very different about that, like doing that in a way that I've never done that before. Get back on track. And if you have to establish a new routine, say you, like for me, like if I record every Sunday, and I still like that. I still do like that I record every Sunday. That is enjoyable for me. Something I'd like to change is that I'd like to get outside way, 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 way earlier, because my mood really dips in the afternoon. my state, my emotional state tends to go down. And like I said in another video too, about like there's a lot of activity going on in the neighborhood, and that could be and again, everybody has every right to be outside and do the things they want to do, especially on a nice day. But there is a magic to the morning, and it's so peaceful, and I feel like I get so many downloads in the morning. There's so many things that could come to me that I could put in these videos in the morning, like really early in the morning. And I still have to like make adjustments to my sleep schedule. Self-sabotagey things are like, well, you know, I know that I crave sugar when I don't sleep enough. And then it's like, then I'm like just getting sugar because I'm like, well, screw it. Saturday will be my day where I like eat kind of junky. And then if I eat kind of junky and then I end up staying up late on a Saturday night, well, guess what? Now I'm not going to be able to get out of bed early on a Sunday. And there's resistance to getting up out of bed on a Sunday because I have a 9-to-5 job that I have to get up like early for. And it's like, well, I don't have to get up early. Why do I want to get up early if I don't have to? I can get more sleep and, you know, lay around longer. Now, legitimately, if I am not going to be able to get enough sleep, then I celebrate the idea of getting up later. But if I have the opportunity, if I'm able to go to bed earlier on a Saturday night, I would want to get up early on a Sunday so that I could fulfill this routine that I want to establish of doing these videos super early. And then ultimately I can make a video, I can get in the habit of getting up earlier, even earlier on a day that I go to work, so that I can, you know, on the days that I'm not doing a workout, I can, you know, take a ride over here or somewhere else and make a quick video before work. So that's where I want to get. I've had a lot of like self-sabotaging things that have gotten in the way of that. But it's a matter of being aware of these things living inside us that are challenging us on these changes that we make. And these are the things that have been challenging me on this new path that I'm on. I really do look forward to making more videos, like on a much more regular basis, and, you know, publishing more videos on a much more regular basis, because I have so much to say. And I think that alone also would help keep me in a better, consistent routine with, you know, showing up for my goals. It's been very nice chatting. I have so much more to talk about. And I will take note to any inspirations for future videos as they come to me. So with that said, once again, it's Rika Star Rose. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for subscribing. If you have subscribed, feel free to like, comment, and subscribe if you have not. And I will see you soon.